Are we ready, Ray? All right, well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Monday, October 5th City Council meeting. At this time, I will call the meeting to order, and will be led in prayer by Lieutenant Kenyon Savels from the Salvation Army.
Shall we pray? Good and gracious God, we love you. We thank you for this day. We thank you for the group gathered before us. We thank you for the members who will be presenting and all the agenda items. We pray that you would cover them with your blood. We pray that you would be in each and every discussion item. And we pray that in all things that are said and thought, that you would be glorified. In Christ's name, amen. The mayor has asked me to share and to challenge each one of you. We're thinking about Christmas at the Salvation Army. So on December 19th, it's the last Saturday of the season, to join him and his wife in bell ringing. Now, if this is inappropriate, then you can blame him and you can blame me too. But I'm challenging you all. So thank you. United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, Kenyon, it was just the last council meeting, we were talking Christmas ourselves, so yeah, it's probably not too early. You know, it's right around the corner. This time I will ask Shelley if you'll do the roll call for us.
I can. Albertson.
Here.
Bueller.
Here.
Danforth.
Here.
Manti, absent. Riefenberger.
Here.
Roby.
Here.
Solom.
Here.
Thorson.
Here.
Tupper.
Here.
Vilhauer.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, and I would like to acknowledge some of our guests tonight. We have the government class from the Watertown High School. I think we have the seniors and juniors here. I asked them if they'd all come up to the microphone and introduce themselves, and they kind of looked at me like, forget it. That's what I heard. Yeah. Should we take a vote on that? We want to see who, we want them to, okay, let's have a vote on that. All in favor of them coming up individually and stating their name, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, you guys are on the hook. Come on. Serious. Mike's right over here. Ray, take the mic and pass it around for him.
Hi, I'm Colin Melanson, and I'm a senior at Watertown High School.
Perfect. Now, we got some cameras that are going to be like shining right down there, so make sure you get right in front of the camera, okay?
Okay, I'm Nastia Little, and I'm a junior at the Watertown High School.
I'm Maria Little, and I'm a senior at Watertown.
I'm Mike Kruger, and I'm a junior.
Dan Tesh, also a junior.
Nate Roby, also junior.
Noah Sparts, a junior.
Mackenzie Pye is a senior. Riley Pye is a junior.
Sarah Ingalls, a junior. Cami Jetland, a junior.
Bryce Dolly, a senior.
Kendra Wheeler, senior.
You're it. You're the last one.
Now that you have the microphone, you get the floor. You can take over.
Yeah. Tell us who your teacher is and if he or she is here.
Mr. Hirsch.
Not here?
No.
What a deal. I tell you what, that's a big check mark right there. You know, not here.
Consider him absent,
Yeah,
put it
he's
that way.
absent.
So.
You would think the teacher would be here.
Thanks, guys, for doing this. I usually don't throw you under the bus like that, but it was very good. And welcome again. So, okay, at this...
There sits a lot of our future city council right there, and mayor possibly, put it that way.
Possibly. Yeah. But you kind of see what kind of power these folks have, you know, by just that quick vote. You know, it's just like, bam, you're up. All right, here we go. Number one, approval of the consent agenda. I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion.
So moved.
Motion by Randy, second by Bruce. Any questions on that? Any changes?
Mayor, I only have one question. When we go to item 1C, the snow removal, and those items that are quoted in there, are those equipment only, or is that labor included? Is that manned equipment, or is that just the equipment?
That would be manned. Am I correct, Rob? You go ahead.
Yeah, that includes man, fuel, equipment, the whole works, per hour. Those are per hour rates.
Perfect. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 2, approval of the agenda. I would ask you that on the agenda, we are going to pull 17A off at this particular time. It's just not the correct time to have that in there, so we'll pull that out of there. So I will look for a motion in a second.
So moved.
Motion by Glenn, second by John. Any questions? And that, of course, included pulling 17A out of there. Any questions? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 3, first reading of ordinance number 15-25, amending the zoning district boundaries by zoning property east of 25th Street east to R1 Single Family Residential District. Shane, if you want to give us a little picture of that and what's going on. And I do realize it's first reading, but it would be nice to see what's happening there.
Okay, Ray, you got my picture up. Thank you. This is Eastwood 18th edition, and previously what came to the council was the annexation, and my mouse is a little tight here. So this square area along 25th Street south or northeast was already previously annexed and zoned. And when the Eastwood 18th edition final plans have come to us, now this was going to be in 2 phases, and now they're going to do it in 1. So this area that's shown here as hatched needs to be annexed into the city, and they're requesting an R1 zoning. So Eastwood 18th edition will now include both the square area previously annexed and zoned and the new hatched area for annexation and zoning. So that's what's before you today.
Was the previous one all R1 too?
Correct. Yep.
Also, what are?
Shane, I just got a comment, and it really isn't about the annexation, but in our planning, originally going way back in time, 25th Street was supposed to be a planned street from 3rd Avenue up to 14th Avenue. It was supposed to be a through street so that we had some periodic continuity to get north to south, east to west.
Yep, correct.
This area has completely lost that ability to get around there.
They do have plans to reestablish a minor arterial going north here slightly to the east of this development. So
will it connect to 25th, or is it going to go all the way down to 3rd?
Trying to remember.
Well, you know,
but it will.
My point is this: is we need to do that sooner than later and get a commitment as to what that's going to be. As we just get farther and farther down this road with no road, it just gets really hard. And we've had to go back. We've seen it in our own community to try to establish effective roadways from east to west primarily. And you know, had we just done it right way back when, we wouldn't have had to have done that. So whatever we do on the annexation being a separate issue, but whatever we do in the planning, we need to set our roadways for effective travel east, west, north, south. So hopefully that's part of this.
It is. That has been a consideration of this plan and going forward, reestablishing that route.
It is, and I want to just throw this in that you're absolutely right, Mike, because there just aren't enough ways to get in and out of that particular area in case we have to move traffic faster. Any other questions for Shane on this first reading? Okay, we'll go on to number 4. First reading of ordinance number 15-26, amending zoning district boundaries by rezoning property in the Edtom. Did I say that right? Edtom? Edtom addition from C3 Highway Commercial District to R3 Multifamily Residential District. And Shane, you want to show that?
As you see on the screen here, the area that is hatched is the area requesting to be rezoned. It currently it's being used as a single-family residence right now. It's actually an old farm with several outbuildings. but it is occupied by a single family. But it meets all the requirements to be zoned R3, R3, and so that's what the request is, so they have the flexibility to do multi-family housing there eventually. I believe the basic reason for the rezone at this time is they were refinancing or something like that, so.
Yeah, I don't know what the reason is on it. I just know that they want to go to R3. R3 is on the east side, it's on the west side. It would just make sense for them to do that. Also down a little just lower, it is commercial.
Commercial,
where
yep. It fits the area perfectly.
It fits it great. Any questions for Shane on this?
The metal circle that's already, looks like it's platted out, are those just preliminary? Because those don't look like R3 lots. They look pretty small.
Actually, what's happening is similar here. You can see this is a unit that's built over several lot lines, and I believe they want the flexibility of individual lots or combining lots for higher density
So it's gonna be
housing.
they'll go across multiple lots.
Correct, yep.
Got it, thanks.
Any other questions? Yeah, because Ritterrath has those in there already, and they look very, very nice. All right, I'm going to move on to number 5, capital outlay accumulations for 2016, resolution number 15-24. Shelley, if you want to take that.
Thank you, Mayor. This is something that the council approves every year. This basically authorizes the city to accumulate funds for future capital purposes. You've already done part of this step by approving the 2016 budget, and in there it stated the amounts that will be set aside for the governmental funds, but this also authorizes us to do that for the enterprise funds. Also, this resolution is needed to do the accounting system entries to actually take the money and move it into a restricted for future capital use, and it's also used for auditing purposes. So, turn it back to you, Mayor.
Okay. What I will look for is a motion and a second for discussion.
So moved.
Motion by Mike, second by Don. Any questions that you have for Shelley?
Shelley, this is not a change in the manner in which we're doing this. This is just procedurally doing what we've been doing. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 6, resolution providing for the maintenance of the reserve account, resolution 15-25. Shelley, you're on again.
Thank you, Mayor. This is kind of the resolution issue that just won't go away. It's amending 2 resolutions, 1426 and 1522, which we did at our last meeting. During the Standard & Poor's rating process, they came back and requested that the underlined language in this resolution be added to that original resolution you passed at the last meeting to keep the debt service reserve account out past their 2-year lookout period. What that did was it allowed the city to keep the A-stable rating that we had received for the other 2 bonds, and also for this one, and it doesn't change anything else, the terms, the amount, nothing else changed except that underlined language was added.
Where is it? Who's proposing this to us?
Standard & Poor's, the rating agency that did the rating for the bond.
I guess just when I was going through the agenda or the package, just wondering who monitors obscure, esoteric stuff like this. Are there things slipping through the cracks that we're not staying on top of, or somebody's watching out for us?
Right. Yep. Through their analytical process, they came back and had some conversation with us last week and asked that we would do that to continue with the A-stable rating. So.
And that's good that they do that. So at this time, I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion.
So moved.
Motion by, who is it down there? Dan, second by John. Any questions that you have for Shelley? There's a lot of people down there. Was he? Good people. Any questions? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 7, Todd, you want to come on up? Number 7, authorization for the mayor to sign a grant agreement with the Department of Transportation for the design and construction of the airport hangar taxi lane expansion project. And I think that's about the only big aircraft that's come in today, isn't it, Todd, that's on your tie?
No comment.
Go ahead and give us a little explanation what's going on.
This is a hangar taxi lane. The state had some extra money laying around this spring and had called us and asked us if we had any projects that we'd want to push through this year. So we got with Helms and Associates and got them to draw up a taxi lane. We were running out of spots for private hangars to go up. So this allows us to put 3 more private hangars up.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Bill, second by Don. Any questions that you have for Todd on this?
Is this gonna be done this year then yet?
It'll be done Thursday.
So if we don't approve, it'll be done already anyway, huh?
So the
I'm voting no. I want to see how this turns out.
I didn't say this Thursday.
Okay, so the most that this is committing us to is the 15,000, is that correct?
That's correct. They gave us, I believe, 300,000. Ray, if you can. I believe it was total 300,000 and it came in at 208,000. So quite a bit under, and so our amount is the 5% of that.
And we have that budgeted within the airport budget, or how's that being handled if it's done next Thursday?
Or just a Thursday.
Okay. How is that handled
But
budget-wise?
you do have the dollars available.
Well, we do, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that's a good answer. All right, any other questions for Todd? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And for the record, make sure that you realize that Mike did vote yes. Okay. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.
Number 8, authorization for the police department to accept a state grant to replace a K-9 vehicle in the amount of $30,000. Lee, how are you?
Yes, good, thanks.
Good.
Received notification last week that, is this working? There we go. Received notification last week that the grant we submitted for back in July was approved for $30,000, so just requesting permission to go ahead and accept that and get a vehicle ordered.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion.
So moved.
Motion by Mike, second by Dan. Any questions?
The vehicle be here Thursday?
I don't think so, Randy, and it won't be that quick.
I will recuse myself from this vote also, Mayor, so.
Is this a replacement vehicle, or is
Yes,
this in
replacing
addition?
a current K-9 vehicle, which we purchased that with K-9 funds, or state funds too, so that vehicle will go back to the state and then they'll sell it and do whatever they need to with it.
But it is registered to the city right now.
Correct.
And then it'll just have to go back to the state and.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks,
Thanks.
Lee. Number 9, consideration of increasing travel per diem for meals and mileage to be consistent with the state rates. Shelley, if you want to handle that for us. Or do you want me to handle that? I can tell you,
It
this
doesn't
came in
matter.
front of us by, I just love to blab up here. So this came in front of us by a department head that noticed that the state did change their per diems. The state then, I'm looking for it here in my file. What they did is they actually, we were currently at 37 cents per mile. The state changed their per mile to 42 cents. Meals per diem amounts, the in-state breakfast was $5. The state went to $6, lunch to $11, dinner to $15. Out of state, it went from breakfast from $8 to $10, dinner or lunch 11 to 14, dinner 17 to 21. And what we're asking you as a council to do is to move it up to the state rates. So what I'll do is I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion.
Second.
Motion by John, second by Bruce. Any questions?
In that, could we just get an effective date? Do you
Yeah.
want this effective now? Do you want this effective January 1? It was effective, July 1 for the state? So I just want to be clear when we should change our sheets and be reimbursing at this rate.
Sure this isn't gonna break our budget?
Are you planning on going anywhere, Bill?
I think we should just do it and have it effective immediately.
Just a comment along the line, Shelley. The IRS changes their per diem for quite often for meals and lodging effective October 1st. The IRS has come out with some new tables and that. I'd recommend an October 1st effective date.
So we'll go back to October 1st. Okay, any questions?
Shelley, on these things, the per diem is based on use. It's not an automatic that's paid, right? It's based on use and the returning of receipts. Is that correct?
Yes, not really. When we go to a conference, if you have it provided for you and you choose not to take it, you are not supposed to ask for that per diem back. If you have to provide it yourself, like breakfast isn't provided and you go buy breakfast, then you should get it back. If you get up, you don't eat breakfast, breakfast isn't provided, you again should not ask for it. We typically, I only approve the ones in my department, and I know what they're going to, and I see the schedule, so I know what meals aren't provided, so I know that they're accurate. And I'm assuming that other department heads that are approving those know which ones they should be asking for, and we've never asked for receipts, because it's not based on receipts, it's just a flat rate. If you pay $2, $22, if you had to provide the meal yourself, you're allowed that per diem. Does that answer your question?
You do ask for receipts if you go on just a one-day trip.
And
been nailed
that,
with
because,
that a couple of
yeah,
times,
because
so.
that actually is taxable, because that's a fringe benefit. So that's completely separate than if you go somewhere overnight.
Just a comment, both the mileage and the meal rates are considerably less than what the IRS allows for similar expenditures.
What are those numbers, Glenn? Do you have them?
Mileage is 57.5 cents, and the meal per diem is now $57 per day.
So,
It doesn't make any difference as long as you're packing their lunch all the time anyway. It doesn't make any difference.
Shelley, how come we don't require receipts? I mean, in my world, I've always had to turn in a receipt. Why is that? Why do we not do that as a form of policy?
I guess for me in the finance department, because I know what's provided and what's not provided, and because it doesn't matter what they pay for that, if they say they paid for their breakfast, didn't take the continental breakfast, didn't not eat breakfast, I'm going to trust that they actually paid for that breakfast. It's to me something that I've never thought needed to be required, at least in our department. And every department head is responsible. Anytime you guys go somewhere, the mayor is responsible for making sure that you guys are getting your per diems that you should be getting, and that you're not putting down that you need to get breakfast paid for when you didn't eat breakfast. So I guess it's just never been something that has come up, that has been abused, that has been a big ticket item that we thought needed to be changed, except for the same day, because that is a fringe benefit, and we have been audited by the IRS twice.
Maybe just
so we do require that.
Maybe just a comment to address your concern, Mike. The IRS also does not require receipts for meals, as long as you have verification or proof that an employee was where they claim they were. The IRS does not require receipts either, so we're not deviating from what the IRS requires.
Perfect. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And it's good to have two CPAs here on board. It works out really, really nice. I like that. Okay. Number 10, renewal of a flexible benefits plan and administrative agreement with Wellmark. Shelley, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. This, again, is something that comes up every year. Wellmark is a city's administrator. They do use WageWorks as their third-party processor. That's why the agreement that we enter into is with WageWorks, but it's through Wellmark. And there really is nothing new to the benefits plan. The amounts are the same. The only thing that changed, the annual admin fee stayed the same, as you can see. The claims processing fee went up 25 cents per participant per month. That's consistent with what they did last year. It went up a quarter from 4.75 to 5. We are currently at 66 participants, and we just kind of usually estimate in that 69 participant range for an estimate of how much it's going to cost us plan-wise. So if you guys have any questions, I can answer those.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll actually look for a motion and a second for discussion.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Glenn, second by, who was the other one? It was coming out there pretty fast. Bruce, any questions that you have for Shelley on this? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 11, consideration of change order number 3 to the contract with Dunick Inc. for the golf course renovation project, increasing the contract amount $4,300. I do have to chime in on this just a little bit, because if you remember, Ray, I used to have a mute button here. Okay, remember that? I don't have it anymore, and I'm gonna let Mike have my new mute button, and Jay's gonna handle this.
Yes, change order number 3 involved the addition of sod rather than seed on the left-hand side of yellow hole number 3. That area is one that was excavated pretty heavily for fill use throughout the other holes on the course, and it was a pretty large area, and it comes into play. So everybody was in concurrence that it was a good idea to sod that rather than seed it, so therefore the change order.
Okay, I'm gonna look for a motion as a second for discussion. Motion by Randy. Second by Brad. Any questions for Jay on this? If you guys haven't seen this, this is a pacifier with, it says mute button on there, just so you know.
How come you didn't give that to Mike for the work session?
I have lots of questions, but I'll defer them right now.
Okay, hearing no questions, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Perfect. Thanks, Jay. You guys at government aren't going to want to get in on this anymore. I don't think you're going to say, I'm staying out of this city government job. Number 13, consideration of change order number 1 to the contract with J&J Earthworks for the 11th Street Northeast project, decreasing the contract. Oh, I'm sorry, let's go to number 12. I had crossed that out. Consideration of change order number 1 to the contract with TMI Coatings Incorporated for the intermediate screw pump rehab project, decreasing the contract amount $5,272.78. And Shane, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. Don't have anything quite as comical and fun as we've been having here, but TMI Coatings has completed the work on the intermediate screw pump project. We had this on the agenda last time, but pulled it off because we needed to revise the final change order. And the revision of the final change order is because there was some uncertainty as to whether the excise tax was or wasn't eligible for this work. And we determined that the excise tax was in fact an eligible item. So we revised the final change order to include a payment of $1,566.55, which essentially just reduced the amount of credit that the change order was for. So by approving this change order, it will reduce the contract amount by $5,272.78. The final amount of the contract would be $78,327.22. And pending approval of this change order, we do have the check ready to submit to the contractor, which would close out the work.
Okay, so at this time, I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion.
So moved.
Motion by Dan, second by Bill. Any questions? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 13, consideration of change order number 1 to the contract with J&J Earthworks for the 11th Street Northeast project, decreasing the contract amount $6,307.74. And Shane, you're up again.
Yes, again, this is a final change order. It does include a few items of new work. We had $1,500 for boulders at Springwood Apartments that the city council had previously agreed to pay up to $2,000, so that we covered that item previously. Extra cost for $360 for using early curing concrete at some driveways, speed up construction. It also included an increase of $320 for turf reinforcement mat to stabilize a drainage outlet, and an additional $7,594.45 for erosion control blanket in the area of the pond. So even with the additions, the overall change order due to adjusting quantities is a deduct, and so the staff recommends approval of this change order.
Okay, Shane, so at this time, I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion.
So moved.
Motion by Randy, second by Don. Any questions we have on that? Was it Randy? Okay. Any questions? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 14, consideration of bids for the wastewater ultraviolet disinfection improvement project. Shane, you're still going.
Yeah, I'll pretend I'm Mike for the moment. Mike Berger is not here. We did, on September 24th, 2015, we received a letter from our consultant on the project recommending award of this project to Industrial Process Technology Incorporated out of Fargo, North Dakota, in the amount of $236,180. Mike did have a budget number of 600. Get my note here. The total project budget was 647,000. 48,000 of that would be for construction observation by the engineer. We had previously accepted bids for equipment in the amount of 334,000, which left us a remaining balance of 265,000. So by awarding this contract in the amount of $236,180, we would still have just under $29,000 of budget left. So with that said, the recommendation is to award the contract.
Okay, at this time, I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Mike, second by Don. Any questions on this? Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 15, consideration of bids for the Fiveplex softball complex. And the bid tab was handed out, and we're going to have Bob, Lucas, and Dustin, if you guys want to all come up, and we'll kind of go over it and take a peek at this. And there'll probably be a lot of questions for you.
Good evening.
And then, of course, if you'll state your name, Bob.
Bob Babcock, Helms and Associates. And I have Lucas Hoover, another engineer in our office that stamped, signed, and sealed the plans and specs. And Dustin Brownell from Great Construction. Great Construction was the low bidder, as you will see on your bid form. Engineer's estimate at the time of bidding was $5,480,000. In June, we had given an estimate around 5.2 to 5.3. We did have many meetings and some additional items were added. So we were really happy with the bids that we got at $5,042,000. I think you got great bids. We would recommend award of the base bid to Great Construction. And there were 8 alternates because we didn't know how it was going to come in and how much we'd be able to do. So we would like to discuss the alternates to see if any or all or what you want to do with alternate bids. As we go through them, I'll just briefly hit them with you. Alternate bid number 1 was for additional roadway. The way the base bid was, it included a main roadway coming in off of 17th from the east to the west side of the large parking lot that will serve the facility.
Can we put that up on the screen so we all have an idea of what we're looking at and where we're at?
Also, while you're doing that, Bob, I know there was a committee that worked on this. Are these in any order of priority? As the committee that's worked on this, have they went through the alternates and say, this is the one we'd first like to do, this is the second one we'd like to do if we have money?
No.
Okay, so that hasn't been addressed, okay.
Well, it hasn't with you in the room, but it has with us.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I mean, what Mike was asking is, was the top priority alternate number one, was the second priority alternate number
Oh.
two? Is that what you were asking, Mike?
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
So we know that
No,
where
it's-
Yeah.
we're at.
No.
Yeah, I would agree that it hasn't been prioritized on. I know that we looked at them and said, well, we'd like these 4 or 5, and just so you know. Okay.
Okay, so north is this way on the drawing. And here's 17th, so the base bid had the road coming all the way, you can see the parking lot here, coming all the way to this side of the parking lot. The alternate bid that you're seeing is for the additional roadway from that point up to 14th. We think this is pretty critical to the overall flow of the project. When you get a whole bunch of teams in here and you only give them one way out, it's gonna get stacked up. Especially where you see this area for future grading. There has been talks of possibly other facilities in that area, potentially. And this would obviously give you a nice, clean place to come in and out for both facilities if they were to go. I know Dustin has kind of researched this a little bit to see if you didn't award alternate bid number one, if you split that out, it's such a small project, to see what it would cost to do it kind of on its own later. And I'll let him tell you guys what he found out on that.
Okay, Dustin Brownell with Gray Construction. I can actually put this up here on the screen. You guys have the bid tabs in front of you. So this would be A1. And you can see that this is A1 where we came up to $244,000. You can see that the mobilization charges was very minimal on this project because all of our subcontractors and everyone is already on the job site. And you can see the prices are, you know, a very good prices. We got very good prices from all of our subcontractors and some of the work that we're doing ourselves. If I flip to the next page, it actually, huh?
Can we have Lucas hand out some extras?
Yeah, we can have Lucas hand out some extra ones here. If you look at it, it actually adds about $56,000 to the project. One of the main reasons is we have several yards of borrowed material, unclassified excavation. When we get into these projects, what happens is we get an earthwork contractor and they see we have 60,000 yards. Well, they're gonna do it cheaper than if they only have 4,000 yards to do it. I actually went through all our low contractors and I actually asked them, okay, on this size of a project, what would you actually charge? So with that all being said, it added about $56,000 to go to it. Now, if you're gonna try to tie it into that or the future site, it might skew it down a little bit, but we have all the people on site right now. There's not gonna be another mobilization charge. I'm not trying to tell you to just jump in and do it because I want the extra work. Of course I do, but, you know, it just, right now I think you're getting the best bang for your buck.
Dustin, can you kind of mention about the cost of asphalt? I know you had
Right,
mentioned that to
right.
me.
This is one of the lowest projects I've ever seen asphalt. FJ McLaughlin was wanting to go after it hard, and they definitely did. Normally, we see that in about the $98 to $100 a ton, and we were getting it for, I believe, just over 82, $83, something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. but-
75, I believe. I remember Lucas talking about that. You said the Aberdeen area, you very seldom see it under 100.
Correct. It's
86, 25.
Okay, it's 86 and a quarter, so, I mean, just in that little bit, it adds up pretty quick, so. Any other questions on that, clarifications?
Well, I see that includes some storm sewer and what, so if you didn't do that, what happens? It seems like that would be a big issue too, as far as dealing with the storm.
If we didn't do it, the water's gonna go where it always did. There's kind of a drainage area, right up in this area right here, that always picked up the water and comes this way and then over to Big Sioux.
And so now if you put that piping, it's just gonna control it, but it's gonna end up in the same place anyway, or is that gonna tie into another
It'll tie
system?
into the existing storm sewer. There's kind of a split about right here that will come north into and go the way it always did. The rest will get collected and it'll go to the south where it always did. Yep. And it would be set up so that if you ever did build here, we'd be able to take roof drains and parking lot, and it's sized so that the storm sewer would be able to take anything that you do here to develop, so.
Bob, one question, if we did build that road prior to the next development taking place, does the road get beat up again? That's gotta be redone anyway when they bring the heavy stuff in next time?
You know, we talked about that. It's got a 4-inch asphalt on a, how many inch base? 8-inch base, which is, it'll take pretty heavy-duty traffic. We would probably recommend that they do a construction drive, maybe in the grass. There's enough right-of-way there where I think you could do a temporary construction for the bulk of it. But I think it would make sense to still get it in.
This question isn't for you, Bob, but it's probably for Shane. We've had a lot of discussion tonight about curb and gutter. You know, with this, because this is really an entrance road into the two facilities, is it really necessary that we have curb and gutter, you know, out in this area? It's our land to the, whatever that is, west, where that's just gonna flow out into those properties. Is it really necessary for that out there?
We could review that as an alternate section. Right now, I guess they have it designed in the project, and it would be, it appears to be cost-effective prices, even if we did proceed with the full street section as we have it planned. And I think, to some extent, part of this would probably need curb just because it's part of the parking area, or incorporating some of the parking too. But that would be one thing. And there's another aspect of this project that we haven't talked about in great detail, but there is potential that we're going to recommend that we plat these two streets. Right now, they're just plans, and if we plat them, then the water utility would be paid for by the municipal utilities instead of city funds. So that's one of our recommendations that we're thinking about as well. So,
How wide's the road?
Bob, how wide is this road?
40 back to back.
Okay. It's considered a high-use area with the future ice arena, so it's gonna be treated like a standard commercial road, so.
One of the things with it being high volume too, just my 2 cents on it, I like to see, even if it's a drive-over curb, if you wanna let water just go, I don't have a problem with it as long as it's controlled in the areas that you own. But one of the things I like is I like a confined edge, because if you don't, you get traffic out on those edges, and over time, they start to break 3 to 6 inches off, and now all of a sudden your road loses a foot on each side. And so I like to have the confined edge. I think it'll last longer for you in the long run.
You want to move on to some of those others?
Yep. Alternate bid number 2 was for 2 permanent shade structures between fields 1 and 2. We just arbitrarily numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're looking at 2 shade structures, 20 by 24 in this area. Just a place for teams to gather, kids to gather with families, whatever, and get out of the sun. Alternate bid number 3 is for between 1 and 5, which is these 2 over here. Same thing. Place to get out of the shade. As part of the base bid, we did have 3 larger structures, 24 by 34, up here closer to the concessions, one here, and one here. So we really do have places to get out of the shade and kind of view all the fields. We think it's something that, with a startup facility, it would be huge. If you go to your existing facilities, you've got, in between the areas, you don't have near this big an area, but at your existing out at Cook, you've added, it's like a 60 by, 80 or so. It's a huge shade structure that they've tried to add out there, but it really doesn't have any place to gather with tables and stuff like that. So I think it's another area where if you want to make this something that people want to travel and utilize, it's really a nice thing to have.
Could I add something to that, Bob, as well? In our discussions, one of the things that we talked about, the reason we went to a permanent structure is because every year with all the canopies, and we will have several of those shade canopies around the facility. If we do this, we don't have to take them down every year. That kind of lessens the burden, I think, on the park and rec to have to take those down. they get dirty, they wear out, that kind of thing. This would be a metal roof, a painted metal roof that would last for, I would think, for a long, long time. And so that was sort of the reasoning behind that versus going to those extra canopies.
It's just basically a metal frame with the metal roof.
They're both being the same, why is there a little difference between the price?
Let's see. Let me look at it real quick.
It could be distance for the electric or something simple too.
Yeah, that was.
Because just on the other ones, they made them the same, so they must have.
Well, they screwed up.
So it goes to the lower dollar amount, correct, Dustin? Pretty sure. Yeah, pretty sure.
We can do that. No, I think what it is it's farther on the electrical, if I remember right. They just had a little bit farther to run the power.
Any other questions on those? Alternate bid number 4 is for under drain piping. This basically puts two runs of under drain, one about through the pitcher's mound and then one along the outfield edge. This whole facility goes from the center and drains out in all directions. So all the water should run towards the outfields. And it was just an alternate that if we can pick up the water and get rid of it. You do have relatively sandy soils out there, so first question should be, well, do we really need it? But you also have really high groundwater, so in the spring, you may be giving the least resistance path into the pipe and actually helping lower the groundwater so you have more stability in your fields too. So I do think there is an advantage to putting it in this scenario. If you're gonna do something like this, now's the time, later is a mess, so.
Why is the bid so much more than the engineering's estimate on this?
We do a lot of under drain with airports and roads. This is really different. And so it's probably not gonna be as productive. So when we look at previous bid tabs to see where costs are, it's probably higher than what we normally see. But it's probably a lot more labor because of the radiuses and the small runs. So I would guess that's it. And
Bob, boy, there's a couple of bids here, are really different,
yeah, well, there's one that's different. And Quam Construction, maybe part of the difference is Quam Construction does piping. So they may have been doing it themselves and they probably weren't quoting, I'm guessing, since they were prime. And it may be something that they've done and they had comfort level with that others don't. You're gonna see some of that bounce. If you look at our engineer's estimate compared to prices, we're gonna have some that are high and some are low. Some of that is part of what happens with when they're getting subcontractors and some of it is you get shorter runs and don't get as good a price as what we've seen in the past.
But they also came in on their base bid $400,000 or $600,000 higher than what yours was.
Under, right? Oh, Quam did, right.
Quam
Right.
did. Quam came
That's
in
why you need to look at overall,
$600,000
because you never
higher.
know, if somebody puts some in mobilization to get some money up front, they're not supposed to, but sometimes some things like that may happen. Any other questions on the under drain? Alternate bid number 5 for the batting cages. We do have batting cages, dual batting cages in 2 locations. One location here as you're walking in, and then the other location here as you're walking in. So you could have as many as 4 teams sitting there warming up, taking some BP before games. We do have electric run to them, so that if you wanted to put a jugs machine in there for fast pitch or something and just get a lot of hitting in a short amount of time, you could do that as well. My recommendation on this may be, and I don't know how aggressive people are here at going out and banging on doors, but this is something that could be added probably by March. Would be a good time we could still add it. So if you didn't want to award it now, if you wanted to bang on doors and get some sponsors, this is one thing that I think would be relatively easy to single out and you could maybe add if you could get some sponsors. But if it's something you just want, we do have a price to do that too. But it is one that I think you'd want to know by March, at least with the electric, because once all the irrigation goes in, it is going to be a royal pain getting electric out there. So I do think you have some time if you got somebody that's energetic to generate some, that you probably could get some sponsors. But any questions on those?
And once again, the other guys did bid that one wrong. Mine is $1,000 more for the other one. And that, once again, was electrical. They had a little bit farther away to run electrical.
Alternate bid number 7 is for an information kiosk. It's just basically a 3-sided information board. It's lighted. It's a place where you can pump the city or whatever you want to do, put some information out there. I don't think you'd see tournament brackets hanging there. Those are probably going to be somewhere up along the building or something as usual. But it is a place where you could advertise things for the city that are going on or that type of field information. That would be centrally located up in this area. Alternate bid number 8 was to tie into the existing well for backup irrigation. That was one of the things we were requested to do. You wouldn't want to, if you do that, got no problem with it, it'll work. The caution that I've got for you is you're not going to probably want to do it the first year because you aren't going to be able to water often enough and still keep the soccer watered the way you want to water it. So we'd probably use just city water to get the fields established. Once you had them established, if you wanted to use the well, you could. Again, with the caution that it's one thing watering soccer fields, it's another watering this facility. You're probably going to get rust on anything that's metal over time, and your sidewalks are going to get discolored, which if you don't care, that's fine. It's just a caution that the more you use it, there is iron in that. I did talk to the guys that do the mowing over there. They said that heads do rust over time, and they do stay up and they mow them off, so they got a little more maintenance, but obviously you have cheaper water. So,
Bob, I think the original intention for that was a backup.
yeah,
Either way.
right.
So if they needed it, they could use ours and we could use theirs. I don't think it was ever intended that we would use well water.
And I don't know that it would work real well going the other way from us to them. Because of the way things are set up with stations and pressures and those kinds of things, we'd have to really look at it and probably change how the stations run, and it's probably would take some extra controls if you wanted to go vice versa and water the soccer. We can make the soccer do the softball, but the other thing that you need to know is that there's 680 heads to water the softball. So it takes 2 days to water the softball. So if you water here for 2 days, that means you're gonna water soccer one day, hopefully, and I didn't ask if they could get it all done in a day, but if they could, then you're bouncing back and forth. You will be watering all the time. So it would be nice to have a backup in a pinch.
Yeah. So do you have a sheet that has the base bid and all the alternates, and if we can add and subtract, and what you feel is the cost of the utilities that we wouldn't have to run if we platted the road anyhow? Does that come out of there? Is that in the?
It's roughly $56,000 that would come out
Okay.
if you plat the
So
roads.
if we do the math, you got, what is it,
That takes you down to about 5
5042?
million. Roughly, rough numbers, just taking the water out would take you down to 5 million. If you add the
The road.
road in, you're at 5 million, say 250. Add 90,000 in, 5,340,000. 70, 5,410,000, roughly. And how about, what are you thinking on the cages? Is that something that you think you'd try to go with for sponsorships?
I would think so. I don't think you guys want to put the cages in right away. I don't see any need for that.
You're looking at about, what, 4.6 roughly?
Well, can I make a
5.6,
comment on the
5.6.
cages? I think the cages, to me, depends on where you're at with your overall budget. Because I've been enough around these ballparks, baseball and softball. If you don't have cages there, they will be finding the nearest other fencing that you have, and they will be hitting up against it, and they'll be ruining it.
Yeah.
And that might be on the inside of one of your ballparks in a backstop. Only God knows where they're gonna be, but they will be doing it. So it's not a bad investment, but I think it all comes down to where we at in total budget compared to,
To the budget.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's the total number minus that water?
We did everything minus the last one. Minus the well?
And the utility share of that?
Minus the batting cages as well?
No.
Then
5.45.
Say that again?
545?
545, yes.
Bob, is there any contingency built into any of these numbers?
In our opinion, yes. In a realistic way, I guess, what we do is we take asphalt and we'll give it a unit weight of 155 pounds a cubic foot. And I'm not gonna get too deep with you, okay? But typically it runs in the 140 to 144 range. So basically we're giving a 6 or 7%. We're having some contingency, but we're doing it through overestimating some quantities. Now, by doing that, you do use some up when you have radius and stuff. It takes more than you think it should. So we found that we can usually be safe by using numbers like that. We do that with that and base course, and so, and that's why we pay by the ton. You only pay for what you use. So we feel we've got some contingency built in.
If you added up your fudge contingency, that's not specifically a percentage of project, which is what we've done on other ones, how much do you think we're at?
What do you think we've got for contingency?
Because the thing of it is, there's always surprises you just don't know about, and that's for,
Probably at least 50 to 100,000 maybe.
okay.
And I mean, I'm the same way on ours. The last thing I like to do is come back here and tell you that we need more money. So I hope that, I'll tell you, I've been really impressed. I haven't had the opportunity to work with Dustin, but I've been really impressed through the bidding, and he's already got me a list of the subs, and they're ready to start Monday. They want to have a pre-construction conference this Friday. They get with the program, and I think we'll be under on ours too, so.
You know, if I look at this, explain something to me in regards to the last one, and that's the alternate. We should have a backup. Would we be on city water?
That would be well water. It's gonna be city water.
It's gonna be, so why do we need a backup?
Only if you wanna save money. Like I say, the first year, I wouldn't suggest it. You're gonna need to water more frequently, and you're gonna wanna use, I think, the city water to get it established. After that, if you wanted to back off, had opportunities to save some costs, you probably could. And I mean, you'll know after the first year what your costs are to run city water.
So it might cost a little more to put the well in, but in the big picture, you might save money to pay for it if that comes.
We're not putting in any well, we're using an
Right.
existing well. So we're just, basically, we're adding piping and
Piping.
a couple of valves so that you can manually pick whether you go to the soccer or whether you go to the softball.
So if after a year or two, you could put that in relative, that isn't something that's gonna be instrumentally bad for this program.
If you're going to ever put it in, now is the time.
Is,
Because if you do it later, now you got fences to cross, you got irrigation systems to cross, I don't know how many times, a lot. You got all the electrical to cross. It
Is-
would be a nightmare to put that in later.
Is soccer watered now with well? Is that the way I'm
Yes.
understanding that? Okay.
You know, one of the things that I remember asking during a meeting, I can't remember the answer that you guys gave me, what the cost would be to take some of that discharge that comes out of the wastewater plant that is clean water and it's not rusty water or anything like that. What was the reason behind why that couldn't be utilized?
I don't know if we said it couldn't, but there's usually testing requirements that go along with that when you're applying it. But, I mean, that's something we could still check with Mike.
I think the testing part of that's all done before it's discharged in the first place, but.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that the distance on that, but that water is, it's always at a level and maintained at a level that's acceptable or higher than what the standards are for discharge into the river, because it's just discharging to the south anyway.
Right, and I think Mike has always said that it's cleaner coming out than it is going in, yeah.
Is there a way,
I hope it is.
We need to talk to Mike about it, because there'd have to be a way for us to store an adequate amount that we could pump, because you're gonna go through a lot of water when you, so we'd have to make sure that there was adequate source, but it's something we can certainly check.
I think it should be at least looked into.
You bet.
Because that water's just going down the river, so to speak.
Well, there's gotta
We could
be.
spend more for getting it usable, you know, because we won't have a cost after that, right?
Right.
For the water.
I would agree. I think that, rather than look at the well, I would look at, spend money on that.
Okay, we will look into it.
Okay, so I think what I'm gonna need here is a motion and a second, and I think you've all kind of heard the alternatives. And within that motion, I would like you to,
To those, Bruce, and those people that were on the committee, do they have a recommendation what, as
one
far
of
as
the
the
things-
alternates go?
One of the things I did not hear, and John, you were pretty adamant about the one here for $69,000, the under drain piping. If I'm not mistaken, you talked about a facility, I don't know, was it in Sioux Falls that has drainage problems?
Yeah, they, one of the ball diamonds, and maybe Dave can help out with that. I've seen Dave out on the ball diamonds out here without any drain tile in, and he's been out there with pumps all night long. And you get one rain during a tournament, and you're shut down. And it does, but that makes a huge difference, because if you get a thunderstorm coming through in the summer, you're back out there playing in a short amount of time if you can get that field drained.
David Ebers with Watertown Jail Softball, and I've been part of this process, and so is Gary Young, who's also with Watertown Fast Pitch and the state ASA commissioner. And I guess when you were talking about what recommendations we would have for the alternates, our top one was that under drain, and then the two permanent structures. And part of the under drain is we love rain in South Dakota, except on Saturday morning at the softball complex, because even though it's graded right, if the fields can absorb the moisture, we can start playing and keep things going. And that's a big plus for anybody that hosts a tournament.
David, while we're up there, how important are batting cages to the tournaments? I know they get used significantly, but you guys want to draw tournaments. You're going to have a first-class facility here. How does that affect that?
I guess, as I'm looking through this, the batting cages probably didn't make our top 5 list, but they, like Mike said, it's a long-term thing. Right now, the Junior Olympic Association is going to get some cages out at Cook, basically through some donations and a few other things. So we're getting that solved. But fences get beat up if people don't have places to go abuse a ball. And so from the long term, it would be great, even if it's as much as put the electrical into them and allow some fundraising to happen over a couple years to get something done. But as long as you got the electrical to those spots that we don't have to dig the complex up, that would be, at a minimum, what we should do.
I just think if we're building a facility of this cost, and we want to have, a top-notch facility, you might as well put the amenities in there that you're going to need. If you think you're going to need them in the future, why not build them now? Why wait?
We could still ask for naming rights of those batting cages with no problem.
I think, if it were me, I would only pull out item number 3. not 3, 7. I'm not sure that there's that value there. The kiosk, and I would pull out the water at this point until we know more about it and research that. That might be something we put back in, but today, those are the ones I would pull out and let the rest of it go. John, I agree with you. If we're gonna do it, I'd rather err on the side of, like, for example, the drain tile. I'd rather err on the side of putting it in and knowing we've got it there and our fields work well, than to err on the side of going, damn, I wish we would have put them in. So, that's my thoughts on it, and it still keeps us within budget to where we're at. That would be my recommendation on it if we go.
I would add to that, it keeps us in budget, but at Cook, I park based upon where the teams are doing their batting practice. And that's a serious statement. I look who's batting where, and I'll move away.
I just want to elaborate just a moment on the kiosk. The reason that's in there is we thought that would be a good opportunity. 2 things. One is to give field information, give maybe tournament information, and also to promote Watertown. We could do different things to promote the community. Different locations in our town, that's the reason we put that in. As far as the water goes, the original intention, that evolved some time ago, a long time ago when we started out with Stockwell. And the intention there was to be able to go to either field. Now, Bob's saying they'd have to reconfigure this in order to do that. I don't think it's an absolute necessity. it would probably help the soccer guys more than us, because the chances of us having issues with the city water are, I would say, pretty slim. So if we were gonna cut that, I would not have an issue with that one. But I think the kiosk is a good idea.
And if you do have any problem with city water, you're gonna fix it. So I mean,
And I'm sure the utilities are gonna give us a discount anyhow on all that water. But what I would like to say is, when this first came out, we were talking with Stockwell, and this was a little over $7 million project. John and I happened to be at the South Dakota Municipal League last year at this exact time, and we happened to visit with Helms a little bit and said, you know, what can you do this ball diamond for? And he says, well, I think at that particular time, after coming back about a month later, we should be able to be around that 5.7 range. And I think that's where we as a group have always looked at a 5.7. I was thrilled when you came back at the 5.042, and then of course with the additions. So what I will be looking for now is a motion, and in that motion, if you would include the numbers you want, just if you want to write down, number 1 is 244, number 4 is 69.5, number 5 is 30, and 6 is 31, 7 is 88, and 8 is 29,750. So in your motion, if you would include 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, or whatever numbers that you want.
Mayor, I'd like to
Yes.
make a motion to approve the base bid of Gray Construction and alternates 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
I'd second that.
that's a total of $5,518,900.
That's without deducting anything for the plotting and having the utilities.
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct. So I have a motion by John and a second by Dan. Any other questions that we want to talk about on this? Yeah, I'm about ready to call for a vote. So if there's any questions, now's the time.
Okay, I do have a question. You know, we have talked about 3 projects. We've talked about them for years and years and years. And one has been the community center, the other has been the softball fields that we have in front of us, and then the other is the ice rink solution. And the question I have is, if we approve this tonight, and if we do not get the type of donor funding that we feel we need in order to complete all 3 projects, does this mean then that the ice does not happen? And are we then saying that this is a higher priority within our community than the ice?
Okay, I need to address this, and some of these numbers are not gospel. I just want you to understand that. We put away $2 million for engineering and architectural fees, and that's been used on the community center, and it's also been used on the ice and this facility here. So we've spent, has it been almost $2 million that we spent on it? But that is pretty close to what it will cost us. In visiting with Pitts Construction, all in, all done on the community center, when I say that, as we look at it today, and if there's nothing gonna happen, any changes, which we know there's gonna be some, but if nothing happens on our side with our contingency fund, if nothing happens on their side with contingency fund, it's a $21 million project. That's what's left. That's what I was told last week. You look at this particular project, all in, all done, is $5.5 million. We've also had contribution by First Premier Bank of $500,000. So I say you take the 21 and the 5, you got 26. We did go out for our bonds, and you guys just approved the additional $10 million that will go through in the next month or so. In fact, we just got our S&P rating on that. We've got, let's just say we've got $30 million available. That's $5 million. If we can't raise $3 million to do that ice facility, that's pretty sad, and that'd be awfully sad of our community by not stepping up and helping us out to get these 3 facilities done for this project, if I'm calculating that correctly, and it's gonna be pretty close to that. So you're looking at 26, you got 4, we need $8 million for that ice facility, between 8.5 million. That's where I'm at, and I think that with the work of all this council and the work of everybody, they can raise that kind of money. Heck, Glenn, now you're retired, you could throw it in.
You still
No, I
glad you
mean,
got on the council, Glenn?
That's kind of where I'm at. I think this community is ready to move forward. I think there's people out there that are willing to, you know, we don't need the one person or whatever to come in with $5, $6, $7 million. It'd be extremely nice. But we can put our heads together and we can get those $100s and $200s and $300,000 donations. We got a lot going for us here in town, folks, and we need to keep this going. I say we move forward with this and we get this this facility built. Our CVB is excited for it. Our chamber is excited to move forward with this. So that's just my opinion on it. I think we can raise the dough. If not, we might have to put the ice off another year so Shelley can, you know, put away an extra $3-4 million someplace.
Yeah, and my only purpose in bringing that up is to make sure that we feel we can responsibly do all 3 of these projects. And if we couldn't, that we're making the right decision for priority-wise within the community.
I kind of got to agree with what Steve said. If we all think back the day that Premier Bank and Premier Bankcard made the announcement that they were going to give us $500,000, Dana Dykehouse kind of put the word on Steve that says, when you guys are ready, let me know. I'll be there to help you raise the rest of the money that you need. So,
Yep.
and I know those guys stand by their word. So I truly believe that the community, with his help and a lot of hard work from this council and mayor, that we can get there and have 3 very class act facilities. So.
And I would have to reiterate that when Dana said that, he truly meant it, or he wouldn't have said it. So as soon as this is approved by you folks to start on it, the phone call will be made to Dana Dykehouse and ask him if he could help me out and help the council out in the city of Watertown to raise the additional dollars for it. He said that he'll help me go out for that additional $4.5 million. Any questions? Are we ready here? Okay. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. I will look for council action. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Congratulations, you guys. Dustin, we're looking forward to this. When are you gonna get started?
Well, we got pre-con on Friday, and hopefully we're gonna start digging next week, Monday.
That's amazing.
Once
Grass
again,
starts when?
I want to give a little shout out to Dave Evers and Gary Young for their help on this project.
Oh, one other item too, when we go to throw the first pitch out at that diamond, you know, the mayor's experienced and we know he can do it, so, we'll get him more.
Did you see
we'll
it
get him
though?
more-
Did you see it?
I got it on maybe we should play that video again.
Yeah.
Perhaps we should.
Thank you, guys.
You guys are gonna do some checking into that water thing with the sewer department, or see if
We'll
we
talk
can.
with Mike and see what we can do.
Thank you very much. I just want to commend you guys for getting this done. This is a big deal for Watertown, and it's another huge step for Watertown in showing we are a first-class city in South Dakota.
It's really
All
a
right.
pretty exciting time to be in Watertown if you look at all the things that are going on. If you take time to sit back, go for a little drive and see the things that are happening in Watertown right now. I mean, you drive out in the east part of town with the 8th Avenue Road going in. You drive out there. I drove out there with my wife the other day, seeing those big ponds they're building in and those roads that are going in. I mean, boy, what an exciting time to be in Watertown. The work they've done on Roby Creek recently, I mean, there's just a lot of great things going on, so.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Randy. I do appreciate it, and I know you guys are working hard on it. So, Rob, if you want to come up on number 16, we're going to start authorization to advertise for bids for a motor grader and a wheel loader for the street department. There's a lot of moving parts to this little one here, and if you could bring us up to date on it.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Basically, what we're looking at doing is asking for authorization from the council to go out for bids for our motor grader and our wheel loader, which would come out of the 2016 budget. We kind of wanted to get going on this so we could have a grader here as soon as possible. We can't have delivery before the January 1, yeah, Thursday. So that it comes out of the 16 budget.
Couple of different things that are going on. Sioux Falls leases 40 graders every year. What they do is they're Caterpillar graders. They're very large. They're all 6-wheel drive. They have the blade underneath. They have the wing on the side. What we would be looking for, if we went with that option, that is being offered to Rob at $88,000?
$288,500.
Right, that offer is being offered to him, and they would pull the wing off and put a snow gate on that. And that is a used unit. It has between 150 and 200 hours on the machine. Now, that's a very large machine. Now, the one that we got last year through Mike Berger's department was a little bit smaller unit, but that also came in about $28,000 less than what this one is. And according to you, Rob, if I understood you correctly, it doesn't make any difference which machine you get because you're happy with both. The
Right.
leased one that would come out of the Sioux Falls facility has 6.5 years left on its warranty. Am I correct on that?
Correct.
The
Yep.
new one has also the 6.5 or 7 years warranty?
Yeah, if we end up going out to bids on a new machine, we would spec a 7-year warranty.
Right.
The machines that they have, Brookings County went out to bid. That's who we'd be piggybacking on for these blades. But the blades, yeah, have 150 to 250 hours on them, and 6.5 years warranty left on them. So.
Right, my understanding is that you could still go off of the old bid that we did off of the landfill for the last one. Am I correct on that or not?
Yeah, I did check on
You
that
okay?
tonight, and I did get a response back here about an hour ago, and know that we are not able to do that just because the vendor can't hold that price.
Okay, so you would have to go out for bids.
Right, so if we would not go this route, I will just move forward and go out for bids. And we're budgeted for 16 for a $260,000. So the machine that we'd be looking at through the used Sioux Falls machine is $288,500. So it'd be $28,500 over our budget.
Did he give you any indication of what that, was it a 762 that you were looking at?
Right. It is a bigger machine than what we got from the landfill last year. It's a 772G is what it's called, and the landfill got a 672G, which is a little smaller machine.
Right,
But
and
either
did he-
one would work fine for
Yeah,
us.
did he give you any indication of what the one at the landfill might be running at this time, since they can't hold that price?
He didn't. I didn't get a price or indication on price.
Okay. So that's kind of the running, kind of the picture of what's going on with the road grader. And if we want Rob to go out just for, because this is a budgeted item for 2016, he needs to go out here pretty soon to get the bids and get that package out. So the question really boils down to, and according to you, Rob, again, I want to just reiterate, you don't care which one you get, you just want a nice grader.
Either one will work fine.
Rob, could we go out for bids on new units, the smaller units, and see what that is? And would we then have time to still piggyback on with the Brookings County?
Yeah, because actually they're, I think June of 15 is when they went out on their bids, so we'd have up to a year, which, yeah, I think it was, or July.
How long would it take us to get bids prepped and get bids back in?
Let's see, probably be looking at 3 weeks to a month.
Yeah, it seems to me like we should at least see what the other one is. If either one works and the other one's cheaper, and there's no value for the larger size,
Yep.
why wouldn't we do that? But
Yeah.
I think we need to know what that number is in order to make a good decision, I think.
Right.
Right, now my understanding was they had 40 units that they sold back. Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
And then left on that, out of 40 units, you told me
I
there's
think
like
7 or 8 left.
7 or 8 left. So there is time, you know,
Yeah.
to do some of that. So I think that's a good idea. So I would look for a motion as second to advertise for bids for a motor grader and a wheel loader for the street department on the lower unit.
So moved.
Motion by Mike, second by Don. Any questions then?
I got a dumb question. What's the wheel loader?
Front end loader?
Just a skid steer type?
No,
deal?
it's big front end loader,
Oh.
$35,000 or 35,000
But
pound
so we're
machine.
talking two different pieces of equipment then?
Correct, yeah. We're budgeted for, I believe, 180,000 for a wheel loader and 260,000 for the motor grader.
Okay, so it's just the terminology, 'cause
Yeah, yeah, front end loader or a wheel loader, articulating loader.
Payloader, yeah.
There you go, payloader. That's, there you go, that's.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 17, we've taken that off. Is there any new business anybody needs to talk about quick?
Mayor, a couple of months ago,
Oh, I'm
maybe.
sorry, let's go old business. Is this old business? Okay,
I
let
have-
me-
I have
let
some
me
old
find out if
business.
there's some old business, okay.
I'm curious, we set up a committee with the mall to talk about the road that we'd possibly be putting there. Have we heard anything on that?
You know, we actually, and Shane, I'm gonna ask for a little help from you on that. We did have a meeting and we talked extensively about the mall, and it seems like what kind of the idea came back is that the problem is that you've got stoplights on 13th Street or 12th Street, whatever that is, going into the mall. And the question really boils down to is a question of traffic control. And if the traffic lights were to be moved over to 14th Street, which we don't know what the DOT is gonna do yet, and I guess you've been asked to send a letter and to contact the DOT about their intention on moving those lights over. So maybe you can fill us in on what's going on.
Yeah, I guess, I haven't completed that conversation with DOT as to moving the light to 14th Street, but what the basic idea was we were gonna touch base with the DOT, make sure that we knew what their game plan was, what I have learned is it's in the very early stages. They really haven't completed their full design focus and scope of that project yet. But what we were anticipating, or what we talked about in our meeting, was that if it's in fact public traffic that's impacting the private mall lot, that we would try to put a higher priority on 14th Street for a traffic light and potentially putting a leg of 11th Street down to the Jansen. And then that would give the public two better alternates on public streets rather than reinvest public money into a private parking lot.
I think it would be prudent for the city to get on that sooner than later. You know, that's still a huge issue. You know.
Well, the other issue is the thing that we just voted on here shortly, just a little bit ago, and that's the softball fields, and then what most likely would be ice out there at some point as well. And so they're gonna either go to get in and out of there, and out is the problem. If they don't go south, they're gonna go north to, I don't know what that street is that
14th.
What road is right between the, I should know this, I live here, but I don't know what that road. No, the other one, over by, between the proposed softball fields and soccer.
So that's 17th Street on the
Okay, so that's
east.
17th that goes between them.
Correct.
Okay, so they're either gonna go then up north to Ford, which has no light, or they're gonna scooch over and they're gonna go by Hy-Vee, has no light. And we are gonna have a mess. So I really don't see, they aren't gonna wanna put one at 17th, because we have one at 19th. So I really don't think, from a city perspective, I don't think we have a lot of choice. I think we do need to move that light from where it's currently at to 14th, put our money in that, and we need to get an answer from them, because we've got dirt moving next week, and we'll play softball out there a year from now, a year and a half from now. So I really think that we need to push for that. They need to fully understand our needs and why we're looking for that. that really is the answer to the mall, as far as I'm concerned.
I think it's a great question that you asked, Brad, and I know that it's an interesting thing out there. I just asked Don, because they have a DOT meeting on a monthly basis, and they just had one. I asked him if he would bring that up to them and see if there's anything that they can do with that, because it is important. It really, truly is. And I think the 11th Street, even though we take that from 11th down to Jensen, it still flows into the mall. It still creates issues, even though you've got that road. So there's a lot of moving parts to this thing.
Correct. The 14th ultimately is a very good fit for a future light, rather than the one that's in the middle of the mall facility. I think everybody recognizes that. We need to give our input to the DOT so that hopefully they weigh that heavily in their design concept and actually are on board with moving the location of that light.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing that came out of that meeting, was that we kind of know 11th has been on the plan to continue 11th through there, but 14th it goes past the current situation at the mall. It's gonna be a bigger deal, and I think we just need to let the people out in Pier know that that's an issue that we don't have. I don't think we have any choice but to deal with it there, because we don't have that many through roads going the other direction. So
They need to be, they need to recognize that we need to deal with this now and not in 2021, put it that way. So
Yeah,
the sooner the better, so.
I think they recognize that. I think that we just need to put that first step forward and talk to them and get it on the table so that they're aware of what's going on and some of our thoughts. That's a great question, and it's good to get out there. Anything else under old business?
I don't know if this is old business or not. Anything on the airport for airline?
It is old business, and I'm really tired of it. It's that old. And I seen Todd jet it out on us, no pun intended on that. But we have had numerous discussions with two airlines currently, and we're hoping that that something will come out of that. And one of the things that's happened, and I think all of you realize that we had till October the 22nd, I believe, was the date that the RFPs had to be out. Maybe it was September 22nd. We had added the airline asked us for an additional month, and it comes up to October 22nd. So we would expect here in the next couple, 2-3 weeks that a couple of RFPs will be coming in. My understanding is that both airlines are fly jets. One has Saabs, one has CJ30s. They're both over 50 seats. One's 54-seat jets, one's 50-seat jets. So we're excited. I think there's real good opportunity. I did have a chance to visit with an airline out of Alaska the other day, and he said they would love to be in South Dakota. Senator Thune actually has had conversations with them. They're just not ready. They're about a year out. SkyWest is also in the same in the same boat per se. They're about a year to year and a half out before they could come into Watertown. But there is two really great airlines that we're talking to. Both of them have the connections with United and American and Delta, and they're both 139 air approved. The 135s do not allow you to put your luggage in, and it moves along with the airlines. The 139 airline has that. So we would only go with that. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, one other question, because I've had a few people ask. How's the roundabout working up there?
Really well, yeah.
Any issues or any?
I haven't had any calls about the roundabout. It's, what do you guys think? The government guy, you guys drive on that roundabout every once in a while? 2 wheels or 4? I'm just asking. It's all good. No, I think the roundabout has been real positive. Rob is looking forward to plowing it. He told me that a couple of times. I think Brad today told me that we're going to have an open winter, so there won't be any snow. Isn't that what you said? Yeah, right. Any other questions? Any other new business?
How long is 4th Avenue going to be shut down this week?
Rob, how long is 4th Avenue going to be shut down this week?
It's probably gonna be up to actually over a week, I think. We're not gonna go with high early on that, Shane? Is that?
That street is built with a concrete base and an asphalt overlay. So, part of that is they have to build that section back and we'll pour the concrete patch back in. Typically, we wait 7 days, before we allow any other activity on that, unless they choose to go with a high early concrete, which at this point, they haven't made that decision to utilize that and spend the extra money on it. So, I would say we're looking at more like a 10 to 14 day impact.
Shane, could you give a 30-second update on 19th? I know that's,
There ain't no
we're
such
getting,
thing
we're
as
getting
30
close to
seconds.
the end of that one. Just the highlights.
Is the stopwatch started? The mill and overlay portion of 19th Street has essentially been completed. There's, they need to do some pavement striping, but that can't happen until the end. They did start putting base lift of asphalt in on the north section today, so hopefully that'll be finished by the end of this week. Concrete work is supposed to be wrapping up this week as far as the sidewalk goes. So we're headed towards the daylight on that project. The anticipation is by the end of next week, all the paving will be in. Then there's a 7-day waiting period to let some of the volatile materials in the asphalt kind of settle in, because then they have to wait, or the epoxy paint for the striping won't adhere to the pavement correctly. So following that 7-day period, we'll stripe it, and it should pretty much be a wrap. So.
Okay. Time out, 30 seconds done. Now, I want to follow up with another question on that. As you all know, I think I sent out an email to all of you, or a little conversation where the utilities was looking for their leak. They never did find the leak, but now we're finding some bumps over there where they drilled down, and the compaction supposedly was good. I don't know. I'm not an engineer on that kind of stuff, but it's gone down, and we're seeing bumps in there. What's the fix, or what's the plan?
Okay, the permanent fix won't happen this fall. We're going to monitor that for the next 3 weeks or so, and if those depressions get large enough, we'll probably visit with Rob and his crew about getting some asphalt fines that we'll put in there for this to get us through till spring. And then next spring, we're going to reevaluate all of those and potentially, or at least the preliminary permanent fix is to mill a strip of that pavement out and repave it once we know that all the holes have settled out and aren't going to be a problem. So,
Lovely. Okay.
I got a question on that same project.
Yep.
Who's responsible for leveling the sidewalks, put it that way? Not the sidewalks themselves, but the dirt. I mean, have you had a couple complaints on some of the new sidewalk up there that they know they're gonna have problems mowing their lawn because the dirt level isn't the same as the sidewalk height? Or is that our responsibility, engineer's responsibility, state's responsibility?
I'm not sure I know what your focus
Where they put
question
in
is.
some of the new sidewalks, the dirt is not level with the sidewalk. It's higher than the sidewalk.
That probably isn't finished yet. And they'll
There's
probably,
grass planted.
Is it? Okay. I'd have to review that. That'll be a punch list item that could potentially get fixed before the end of the project.
Okay.
I think his question is, who's responsible for that? I think the DOT has that contract with the subcontractor, but yet you and them are still in
Right.
charge of the overall supervision.
Right. Once we meet substantial completion, the DOT and city staff will review a punch list for any deficient items, like this one probably is, and request that those get fixed.
So if we're aware of any of that, we should get with you and let you know of any, where it's at.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else, guys? Any liaison member reports that you want to share with us?
I got one.
Oh,
Yeah, we
any
went
new
by-
business? I'm sorry, Dan. I remember you said that, I stopped you once.
Yeah, I would like to recommend, or ask if Shelley, maybe I'm out of line here, but I would like to see if Shelley would, or Christy Johnson would take a look at recommendation, what it takes to be a mayor in other communities, as well as the salary limits that they have. Now, realizing that some have a different form of government, but as you look at the salary range that we have, as compared to even our department heads and so on, it just seems like it isn't right to me, but maybe I'm looking at it crazy, but if we could get an idea of what they're doing in other communities, and I know they have different forms of government, but I think that's a good thing for us to know too, that if they're spending $150,000 plus having a mayor in Aberdeen, then, you know, maybe we're way off base on what we do. So if that would be, you know, I don't know if that would be Shelley's deal. I don't know if that would be Christy Johnson, but it just seems like we're not quite on the right track to me personally.
We expect our mayor to be the CEO of the community.
Plus,
And he's not getting paid to be the CEO of the community. I mean, we've got department heads that make considerably a lot more than what the mayor does, so.
and we also have the Public Works Director involved, that job involved in it. But I also don't know what other communities do as far as if you run for mayor. I mean, we have is ours right now, you have to be 18 years old. But maybe there are some things legally, I don't know if you can do something legally even to say that.
Okay, well, let's move on. You go ahead and check that out and see what's going on in the rest of the world. Thanks, Dan, for bringing that up. I appreciate it.
I got a little more new business.
Yeah, is there any more new business?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't know if it's new business, kind of old business, because it is getting kind of old. We do have a number of businesses in town, I'll say liquor establishments, that are going out of their way to allow smoking, which is it's against state law for one thing. It is a petty offense. Been going on for quite some time. Been brought to my attention quite a few times. I think we need to address it. How we address it, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a catch-22 because I believe it was back in 2012 when that first came about. I don't think it was direction of the city in any solid way to allow the police department to enforce it real well. I don't think it was, one thing the city sent in for a Attorney General's opinion, which we got basically sent back. I noticed just today that the city of Sioux Falls is also looking into this. They have some issues also. I think I don't know what the solution is yet, but I know there is some establishments out there that are very openly breaking the law every day, so.
And I think that's a real good conversation to have this week now when the South Dakota Municipal League is in town. We can have that open conversation with them and just find out what cities are doing. Are they all allowing that? Are they allowing smoke rooms? I don't know.
I know they don't in a lot of them, so.
And I think we should have that conversation with them and,
I know part of the, I visited with the police department. Part of it is it's just a petty offense. It's a $25 fine. Like I say, you don't get the support of the Attorney General's office. I think we really need to look, in Sioux Falls, I just read the article in the paper today. Sioux Falls is looking at possibly suspending some licenses or what they can do to look at it that way to make it, put a little teeth in it. So I know it will be addressed through the lottery, South Dakota Lottery Association, or not Lottery Association, but the lottery.
This might be a really good agenda item for a work session in the near future, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, I will tell you that Sioux Falls is they are very aware that we have these concerns here and have specifically mentioned that within their meetings down there as to kind of in support of a direction that they should go up there, is that we are talking about those same issues here. And they're talking about doing the same types of things that we've talked about in regards to increasing penalties and doing suspensions and that type of thing. So there's only so much you can do, and we either have to believe in it and move on with it and make it harsh enough that it is a penalty, and right now it's not, so.
Well, I think one thing we need to do is, and that's one talk that's coming out of Sioux Falls, is talk to our legislators when they go to Pier this year. We need to get a little bit more defined law, what we can do with it. I mean, it's a state law, but you know, what's going to stop a restaurant from starting to do it? What's going to stop anybody from doing it?
Yeah,
Well,
I'd be curious, we got Lee here. Lee, do you have any idea of how many citations we've written in that regard?
This is one of those things that comes up from time to time, Bruce. A couple years back, we went around, did a lot of walkthroughs, we issued a few tickets. Our state's attorney's office wasn't real excited about it because they had to go to court on one. The guy took it all the way through to the court, and he got found guilty of $25 fine. Of course, he had to pay an attorney, which cost him a little money out of his pocket. But the state's not real specific on what defines a smoke shack. I know some of them that are out there now claim, and I know this probably isn't true, that they got building permits through the city to build these knowing they were smoke shacks. That's what they're telling us. When you go out and look at them, they're not meeting what I would say is the state definition of a smoke shack, but it's kind of ambiguous what that exactly is too. We did try to get that ruling and weren't able to get that. So maybe if Steve would want to put together some kind of a committee, I could have a couple of our officers, maybe one or two from the council, you know, do some studying with this. We could get state's attorney's office involved with it. He could send somebody over to a couple meetings, just kind of get a feel for what it really is. I think our best bet is to get the legislator to increase those things because $25, most of those casinos don't mind that. A couple of them that are repeat offenders didn't even faze them. They still kept doing it.
Can't we set that up as a city ordinance and set our own fine?
I guess we could try, but when it comes to those kind of offenses, the state takes the position that they've preempted the field, and much like alcoholic beverage laws, we can't enact ordinances that are contrary to state statute relative to alcoholic beverage laws. So I think the state takes the position that they've preempted the field, so we couldn't.
So I think one of the things we could do is set up the committee, and then we can ask Roger or any of our representatives to be within that, you know, Lee, Roger, you know, I mean, it would work out really well and get their input.
I think, you know, I think there's two separate issues. One is, you'd mentioned smoke shacks, that's one thing.
Yeah.
And the other one is just flat out smoking in a restaurant or a bar.
Yeah.
You know, and the smoke shack thing, I mean, that was so ambiguous, and there really are no parameters for ventilation in a smoke shack.
Yeah. That's
You know,
probably the
we
biggest
looked
thing
at
we're
it,
fighting.
Yeah.
But those were also supposed to be separate from the machines, weren't they? They're not supposed to have the
That's
machines in
our
that area, and my
understanding of
understanding is
that,
we've
yes.
got places that have the machines, and they're saying,
Yep.
go ahead and smoke, we're not gonna stop you.
And there's some that are just point blank. They said an ashtray out there. It's not a separate building.
Right.
It's part of it's their casino.
And-
I mean, you walk into one and they say, if you're a smoker, go into this section. If you're not, go into that
And
section.
this gets down to some of the stuff we've had in the past. I mean, if it's a law, it's a law. If it's not, it's not. And my opinion, it's not fair to those people that are trying to abide by what the rule. We had a state vote on it. It's not coming from us as a city council. The state of South Dakota voted on this, and I think if nothing else, I don't know why we can't, as home rule charter, say X number of offenses and you have your license is suspended. I would be all in favor of doing that.
And I think, Lee, I'll take that advice. We'll put something together where we can get 3-4 of us involved and find out what's going on around the world.
I think it'd be great to get some state people involved in along with it because it's
Yeah,
Thanks,
because they
Lee.
make that decision.
bet.
Thank you very much. Anything else, guys? Otherwise, I do need to go into executive session. A couple of quick items. I believe there will be action tonight. And so at this time, I'll look for a motion. A second.
Excuse me, Mayor. You didn't have a liaison report.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to drag this out.
Go
Pretty
ahead.
soon you're going to pass that mute button down to me.
I was just thinking of
so.
getting this thing.
Just liaison report from Watertown Area Transit. They did attend the Dakota Transit Authority meeting up in Minot last week. Dakota Transit Authority is South Dakota and North Dakota. One of our drivers did receive the Driver of the Year award. Dave Hoas did receive the Driver of the Year award. And Mary Antrim, who is our secretary for our board of directors, received the Friends of Transit award. So just hats off to those guys. They did a great job. And
Yeah, very nice report. Thank you. Okay, so at this time, I'll look for a motion and a second to go into executive session. Motion by Mike, second by Glenn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are in executive session.